So the NFL season has kicked off. It's amazing to have football back. I feel like it would, at least to me, I don't know about Jake and Jordan, who we also have here. It felt like a longer off season than usual, but we are back. Um, and not even a first offensive play got snapped, and we already had players spitting on each other. More on that probably in a little bit. But the biggest takeaway I had for this game is this honestly sort of went exactly how I thought it would. I thought the Cowboys would play them close. That's just how they operate, but not get the win. That's exactly pretty much what happened. And that's sort of been the thing with the Prescott era. I remember when the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl. I believe they played the Cowboys in the opening game the next season, and it was very similar. Like Prescott went off, the Cowboys played great, but not enough. And I feel like that happens a lot with Dallas in these types of games. So yeah, and then CeeDee Lamb, he had a pretty good game to start. Dropped two big passes on the end of the last possession, and one on a 4th and 3 that ended the game. The second one was a little bit tougher, but the first one, that hit him right in the hands. And the second one, it still hit him in the hands, but it was a little bit, you could say, overthrown or whatever. But you're supposed to be one of the guys in the league. You gotta make both of those catches. So I feel like with Prescott, with the Cowboys defense, whatever you want to call it, this game was just another. They're a good team, but they came up just a little bit short. I thought the Cowboys defense played pretty okay, but that was probably just due to circumstances with the lightning and stuff like that. Like they started off pretty slow, and then after a 62-minute delay, the Eagles' offense was a little bit thrown off. So I think the Cowboys defense played okay, but without Micah Parsons, that's going to be a bit of a problem. And then I don't know, on the Eagle side, I thought one thing that was really good for them was that Saquon Barkley looked like Saquon Barkley again. I think that was definitely a big question going into this game. He had an amazing season, but he's sort of an older running back, getting close to 30, maybe already 30. I'm not exactly sure. Could he repeat that in another season with the Eagles? I think so far at least yesterday, he definitely did not look like an old man. He still looked like 2024 Saquon. But one sign for trouble with the Eagles was that early defensive back trouble. They got exposed a little bit early in the game. That might be something to watch as the season goes on. But overall, I think this was a good game. The Cowboys are a good team. The Eagles are a great team. And I think that showed out yesterday. So I'll throw it to Jordan. What were your biggest takeaways in this game?
Well, my biggest takeaway, first off, was I don't know what. I know Evan mentioned the spitting on the player. I don't know what the heck was going through Jalen Carter's mind. I know there was a video of Dak Prescott spitting in his direction first, but come on, Jalen, like you just can't do that. I hope the NFL, what's the word I'm looking for? I apologize. Handles that situation properly. Um, and then as for the game, Evan mentioned that CeeDee Lamb had a good one to start, had crucial drops toward the end. I believe that he had 4 drops. Um, Going back to the Jalen Carter thing, actually. So I saw this video about Dak Prescott saying how important Jalen Carter was to Philadelphia's defense. They had schemed to stop him all week, and that made things easier as we saw Dallas go down the field and score touchdowns on the first 2 possessions they had. But the problem is Jalen Hurts answered both of them himself. Tight game in the first half. Jake Elliott started, hitting 50-yard field goals again. I believe he hit 57 yards, if I remember right, at the end of the first half. Second half was pretty much nothing offensively. I mean, 3 points, and then you had the lightning delay. Nothing else offensively happened um, of note besides CeeDee Lamb dropping the big pass on 4th down at the end of the game.
Yeah, first half was always a game I would like to see. Um, a lot of points scored combined between the two teams. First, every possession had points except for that. Every possession had a score a touchdown except for that drive near the end of the half for the Eagles. And one Cowboys drive was kind of started out on 3rd down with a bringing up with field goal. I think gave Dallas the league or maybe tied it. I'm not too sure on that, but heading back to the first play of the game, that I, I watched that same video you did, Jordan, about Dak Prescott spinning in the direction of Jalen Carter, and then Jalen Carter spinning obviously back on him. Um, when you watch that video back, what Dak Prescott did was not a foul. He spit in the direction of Jalen Carter, yes, but he spit on the ground. Jalen Carter spit on Dak Prescott. And, that was a big loss for an Eagles defense, who was already really short-handed. Um, and, you could really see that with, as Jordan said, Dallas going down the field and going on the first drive of the game and the second drive of the game both touchdowns, but Jalen Hurts answered. So, we'll see. Um, and one big takeaway I take away from this game is, AJ Brown only had one target down near the end of the fourth quarter, And then obviously CeeDee Lamb had that big drop in the fourth quarter, 4th and 3, which basically gave Philadelphia the game. So yeah, that was a big drop. But great game all around, I think. Outside of the lightning delay in the second half, you know, some of the offense stalled, but I think it was a great game up until that point.
All right, yeah. So I feel like with the Jalen Carter thing, some people are saying it's not really a big deal. But I feel like, with the NFL and their precedent, right? Like this is a league that gets angry if you celebrate too excessively. Like if you're gonna call personal fouls on type of stuff like that, you have to keep it consistent. If you're gonna go dirty enough to like spit in another player's, towards his it was in his like chest area, but it was probably directed at his face. I think they made the right call with that. And so I got to agree with both of you on that. Prescott didn't do anything wrong. And there's just a really bad. So obviously he had to leave this game. He'll probably have a fine coming his way. But should he get suspended another game? Because again, like sure, if it happens in the fourth quarter, like whatever, right? But this is the first play of the game. After the kickoff, another player gets injured. Everyone's sitting around to open the season. That's a little bit more than just some random play. So I obviously a fine's going to be coming, but honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if he got suspended. I think you just got to set that precedent.
I think Jalen Carter will get suspended for this. I think you just gotta, you know, like Evan said, set the precedent that spitting obviously not allowed, and not to mention is also pretty disgusting what Jalen Carter did as well. But yeah, I think he'll get suspended. Jordan.
Personally, I would suspend him 3, 4 games. Um, I don't think at all what he did was, well, first off, it was not sanitary because, spitting on a player is disgusting. And second off, this is not the first time that he's been involved in an incident so controversial, if I want to call it that. So 3, 4 games for me for Jalen Carter. You're banned from the, well, not banned, but it's like suspended for 3, 4 games.
3 or 4 games, and that's coming from a Georgia fan. So there's no bias going on there. Jordan is calling it balls and strikes right there. But if I were to say biggest winner to me from this game on both teams, I would have to go Jalen Hurts on the Eagles. As a starting quarterback, I've heard this stat repeated a lot. He's won 15 straight games now as a starting quarterback. That is very good. You could argue, I could argue he's a little bit of a system quarterback. He's sort of to me like a Lamar Jackson. He is an elite football player. I don't know if I would call him an elite quarterback though. Like your Mahomes or Allen, but Jalen Hurts is killing it so far. Definitely probably a top 5 quarterback at this point. And then biggest winner for the Cowboys, I think, is Brian Schottenheimer. I think, a lot of people as head coach of the Cowboys, I think a lot of people were thinking like, you know, is this the Cowboys, not only are they going to be they're going to be bad. They're going to be one of the worst teams in the league. They're losing Micah Parsons. Mike McCarthy was keeping him around. Now they just promote some in hire. They have no idea what they're going to be doing, and they're going to be a bottom team. And again, like I said at the beginning, I think Dallas is not really like a Super Bowl competitive team, but they were competitive with the team that is the defending champion. So you got to give victory to Brian Schottenheimer there, I think.
Yeah,
But
so
yeah, go ahead, Jake.
the thing that I have with Jalen Hurts, Jalen Hurts has been in this league, I believe it's 5 seasons,
2020.
maybe.
So this would be his sixth season, but I think his fifth as a starter. Yeah.
Okay, so this will be his sixth season. You know, I know Jalen Hurts has played for the Super Bowl, and I heard the stat last night, heading back to his college days, 5 out of the last 9 championships he has played for. Um, but with Jalen Hurts, I still see an issue. He's obviously a winning quarterback, but I still see an issue with Jalen Hurts' play style. He doesn't really throw the ball a whole lot, and maybe Philadelphia's offense doesn't require him to throw the ball a whole lot, but there's a difference between a thrower and a passer. And, when you talk about Jalen Hurts going up against the top quarterbacks of the NFL, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, even Lamar Jackson, the last couple of seasons he got better. I see Jalen Hurts as a thrower, not a passer like those guys.
Yeah. And to be fair, he did, especially in this last Super Bowl, he did make some key throws when they needed to be made. But I do wonder, like, say, if the Eagles weren't totally dominating the Chiefs, and he had to go pound for pound with someone like Mahomes, could he do it? I think that's a fair question. But yeah. I want to bring this to because this video will be up before Sunday. What are we looking most forward to for the first NFL Sunday? And I'll go first and then I'll throw it around. Obviously, I'm looking forward to my Titans. It's going to be a big weight game for Cam Ward. I hope he proves some people wrong. But I'm gonna in terms of not being biased, I'm not gonna go there. You got the Ravens and Bills on Sunday night. That's cool, but like honestly, to me, that feels like the runner-up to be who's going to be second place to Kansas City. Like until they actually do it, this is the same stuff. They're very good teams, don't get me wrong, but like whatever, like beat Kansas City in the playoffs and then I care. But the one I'm really looking at is I believe in the 3 o'clock window. It's Detroit opening at Green Bay. And I think that's going to be a big one. Green Bay, as we talked about with the Cowboys losing Micah Parsons, he now goes to Green Bay. How do the Packers look? How did the Lions look after an amazing season last year, but not so great in the playoffs? That's going to be an amazing start to week one, I think. But Jordan, yeah, what are you most looking forward to week one?
I can't really say this without being biased. The Falcons had a lack of pass rush last year. Addressed it with Jalen Walker in the first round and also James Pierce Jr. at the end of the first round. So I'm interested to see what kind of pass rush is generated, and also what does Michael Penix Jr. look like year two? He's got weapons all around him. Drake London, Bijan Robinson, Darnell Mooney, Kyle Pitts. I know the running meme about him. But the Falcons don't have a bad offense on paper. So I'm interested to see that. Jake?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, guys, if this takes a little longer, but there's a bunch of storylines, to look forward to on week one. First one I'm really looking forward to, and this is Monday night. I'm looking forward to, JJ McCarthy's first career start, how he does in that, situation down at Soldier Field, how he does it against that Bears defense. And I think JJ McCarthy looked good in preseason, but obviously missed whole last season with a torn ACL, I believe it was something along those lines. But I think that's going to be a big storyline to follow along. As Jordan mentioned too, I think a big storyline is how will Michael Penix Jr. look in his second year. Obviously a lot of weapons on the outside and in the backfield. How will Michael Penix look? And then the next storyline I'm looking
Really,
forward
really
to
quick,
is
Jake. I wanna
obviously
I wanna update our viewers on the JJ McCarthy torn meniscus in his right knee in the 2024 preseason. Just letting them know. But
so not definitely not the same thing, but obviously missed
season-ending
whole last
injury, yeah.
season. We'll see how he plays at Soldier Field on Monday night. Um, I I know this is gonna come out sound a little biased, but no, I want to see how the Dolphins defense looks. Obviously not a great year for them last year. Anthony Weaver went out and got Matthew Judon, who was a free agent, went out and got him. So I'm wondering to see how he looks along the sides of Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, all those guys. And then the last storyline I'm looking forward to is really, number one overall pick, Cam Ward, heading into the season, obviously from Miami. His first game, he's basically being thrown into the fire in Denver. Bo Nix had a wonderful first season. See how he does in his second season. Obviously, going against a first season quarterback in Cam Ward. So we'll see how that game plays out. I got both Cam Ward
Um,
and Bo Nix on my fantasy team, so I'm impartial on that one.
so I also just want to mention, can the Falcons Bucks in Atlanta live up to last season? I don't know if you guys remember, but it was a you know what of a game. The Falcons ended up winning. I believe it was 36-30 in overtime. Kirk
That
Cousins,
was the Kirk Cousins MVP game. Yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
yes. Kirk
Yeah,
Cousins threw
yeah,
for, I
tie
believe,
game heading into
500.
overtime.
Kirk Cousins threw for, I believe, 509 yards. But what I actually find funny is he broke Matt Ryan's record as a Falcon, and the Falcons actually retired Matt Ryan's jersey that night. So you know he was in attendance watching that happen, watching his record get broken. So I just find that kind of funny.